We're gonna talk about prompting today, okay? So the best example of what I want to show you is by a ChatGPT plugin called Prompt Perfect. Here they are, and what they do actually is they allow you to type in perfect at the beginning of your prompt and just type in whatever you want to actually be querying, and they convert it into a nice sentence. So that's what I think sort of the short-term future of prompting will be. Some developers essentially figure out the best way for prompts to look like, to be structured, and they can take your prompts and convert them automatically, again using ChatGPT, the same technology essentially, to expand on your prompts. So this is a great example. I misspelled stuff, I just made it short, vague, and no question mark, and actually it converted it to a nice question. So this, I think, this is a good example of how it should be. But what I'm going to show you today is basically what's behind, or what should be behind these. Like, what do these developers actually should rely on? And at the end of the video, I have made my own. Plugin actually, but it's pretty interesting how far you can take this. It might be a surprise for some of you, but there's actually now real life researchers, probably in lab coats, doing prompt engineering. Essentially, their research is on how do I best prompt not necessarily ChatGPT, but these large language models to get the best outcome. They actually have controlled experiments where they track the performance of these various different methods. Or like, well, what if I say this? Will it actually come out with a better answer or not? And that is a very interesting research, and I will impact the future products that are built on LLMs. And as always, basically everything I learned is from YouTube. So I'll make sure to link some nice YouTube videos. For example, this one from AI Explained, for the smart GPT concept that he's thinking of. Three of Thoughts, this is where I discovered this paper from Wes Roth. So I'll definitely link them because they did a lot of work for this. But yeah, so let's just go over this paper. I'm not going to actually go over this paper, but they have this nice illustration. Three of Thoughts is apparently a method that is performing really well, and it's just been released very recently. So I want to take a look. So it looks basically complicated like this, and to get to understand this, I thought, let me try to understand these first. They're saying, okay, so there are prompts called, IO prompting, input-output prompting, chain of thought prompting, self-consistency with chain of thought prompting. So I wanted to understand these first. So I just went to ChatGPT and then try to get some Python code, which just helped me understand what it actually is. And well, I did. So the very first one, input-output prompting, simply means it's exactly what you're used to. You just say, hey, can you give me a poem, based on whatever the user says, and then the user says something, and then so it gives you an input, and you get an output. So that's zero shot. There's no examples you have to provide, nothing. So that's called the IO prompting. The very simple one, like this. But now, even within this input-output prompting, there are different tests being run. Like, for example, this is what is called zero shot, where you just say something, hey, do this, and then it does it. Then there's a step-by-step thinking that you can add to that prompt. So all of these you can actually use in ChatGPT itself by simply saying, hey, hey, do this, and then you just start the whole thing by saying, let's think step by step. What is already also known, that you can add some examples. In this case, you're asking for, here's a scenario, here's a question, and here's how you would answer that question. And then you provide a couple of examples, and then when the real scenario comes up, it already knows from these two examples what's the pattern. And then they do the same thing here with step-by-step thinking. So again, just with this, they're able to get get much better answers. So that is interesting. But now I wanted to go continue here and start understanding these two so that I can get what is this, what's the future here. Okay, so let's take a look at the chain of thought prompting. And I go back to this, and this is all helped by ChatGPT. It helped me write the code for me, and I think instead of explaining the code, I think I would rather just run it. So here's the problem we're having, and we're gonna solve it with a chain of thought, and it's actually displaying pretty well, I think. So here, what it does, it first generates a thought. Here's how I should probably solve it. Here's how I should start. It prints that out. Then it prints out a second thought, and then it sort of combines all those thoughts and then generates that into a final answer, and which is here. So it has a couple of thoughts about this, so it gets some time to think, and then it generates an answer. Final output, final answer is 3. And you can put in any question here. So here you can see I try to trick it a little bit, and it worked. Well, I guess my question was just stupid, I guess. I said, what's better, Coke or Pepsi? It had a couple of thoughts about this, and then summarized those thoughts saying, nah, and this is not a good question. I can't answer this. And you can see I can control, for example, how many thoughts there are. So that's what chain of prompting is, and it was seen to be better than just regular prompting. You just introduce a couple of steps in between. Now, there's also a self-consistency with chain of thought, and this is actually also fairly simple. So essentially what it does, it creates the same kind of thing, but multiple times. So you create multiple chains, and then the final result of each, you just compare. You say, okay, so 5 times it said that x is 3, it means it's 3. And it creates an output. So that's a better way to, that's apparently a better way to prompt. Let's see how I did it. And I had ChatGPT create this for me as well. And let me not run it, because as you can see, then it becomes more and more expensive, because I have to run this OpenAI query multiple times, right, to get this right. So for the sake of being better, it gets more and more expensive. So yeah, but as you can see, it generates one chain, and that chain has multiple thoughts. It comes up with a resolution. Then it starts the chain 2. It starts the whole thing again. It does the third chain, and then it takes a look at the most common output, and the solution is 3, because it was always 3 in this case. So that helped me understand it. If you want to take a look at the code, you can. That helped me understand all of this. And now comes the new one. Okay, what is so much better than everything else? Well, it's a tree of thoughts, and as you can see, this is already getting a lot more expensive than anything else. So what will this be? And yeah, so I did try to copy paste the whole paper or parts of the paper to ChatGPT and try to get some examples printed out for me, but it just wouldn't do it. Just wouldn't do it. So I tried to take it step by step for myself so I understand it better. And this is the best version that I got for the sake of understanding. So it really doesn't get fully done, fully completed, but let me explain to you like this. This methodology that they propose essentially, let's say, creates the first layer first, and then asks itself to evaluate each of these answers. So say, for example, in my example, I say, hey, compare Chicago to Toronto, and just compare those two questions. They give an argument for this, second argument and third argument, and then evaluates each of those arguments with a score from 0 to 1. Then for example, this one, green, is clearly the best answer, so it evaluated it to 1, for example, and then it decides, all right, so my first thought about this question is this. Let me generate 5 second thoughts. So it generates second thoughts, and then it ranks them again, and bam, they get a score again. So this is again a 1 probably, or 0.8, and then it just mashes them together and say, okay, now we have 2 thoughts about this question. Perfect. Now it goes, okay, now we have these 2 thoughts. Let's extend those thoughts and generate 5 more. So it generates 5 more, and now we got, and we rank them again, and so on. So, and it does not only rank each individual thought, but it also ranks the combination of these 2. The same way it ranks the combination of these 2 as well. And maybe, a combination of these 2 is actually better than the combination of these 2, even though this first thought was better. And it has some fancy algorithms that ChatGPT could not replicate or come up with, and I don't know how to do them either. So I did just that basic, idea, where I had it generate 5 ideas about what's better, Chicago or Toronto, and you see it ranked them 0.8, 0.7. So this is the thought it liked the best. Then it goes to the second layer. Now says, given that I like this, given that I have this already, let's add additional thoughts to it, and then it just combined it all and ranked both of these as well. And here it has an answer of 1. Okay, so far we're liking this a lot. And then it goes through these all these sort of possibilities and ranks them from worst to best, and then picks the best options and then presents them to you. And I'm sure it's a lot more complicated, and it takes a lot of compute and also a lot of money. If you're querying all of this through OpenAI, and especially automatically, good luck to your wallet. Luckily, so right before I started filming, I noticed that, well, first of all, people who made this paper, they're actually going to publish all their code in here. So we're going to actually find out how they did it, but it's not there yet. And someone open sourced, basically from the open source community, they decided to do this, and they actually implemented this whole logic. So someone's way smarter than me, but they did it here. It's all going to be linked in my in the YouTube video description. I'm going to be diving into this because I want to find out. Okay, and then finally, here's my plugin. This is what I did. I heard this idea from this video from the AI Explained guy. And essentially it goes like this. If you prompt something or you ask for anything, you kind of want to have it go through a council of advisors. So imagine for every question in your business, you might want to consult a CEO, CFO, COO, HR manager, and ethics board, for example. For every question, now it's not feasible because that takes resources away from them. But if they could control, for example, their principles, and just put that into software, into writing, then every decision the company makes could be funneled through through that council. So I made a plugin called Your AI Council, and here for example, I asked, what is the best school to pick in Minnesota? What it did then, it came up with the essentially 5 council members that would advise you. So in this case, from professor gave advice, then recruiter gave us some advice, then the current MBA student gave some advice, and sort of combined it all in one answer. And then there's an evaluation prompt that took all these perspectives and then made one measured final answer. And now here's the answer. And then I tried to ask something more personal. I was not sure how this is going to react, but said, should I get married when I'm 23? So then it picked a parent, friend, teacher, doctor, and financial advisor, and took their opinion, laid it all out, and sort of concluded in one evaluation. So this is one of the strategies that I picked that I found it most interesting, and I implemented that into ChatGPT plugin. And I'm sure all the other things that we just discussed, there will be some sort of a implementation that will help you use ChatGPT even better, or any other LLM essentially. Okay, hope you liked it. Links in the description, and see you next time.